I love September for the shift in the seasons, the crisper air and the changing of colours. I also want to get outside walking and drawing more, so I thought, why not make it into a group activity and challenge? So join me in this drawing challenge to welcome in the autumn equinox. Hello and welcome to this video. If you're new here, my name is Orla and I'm a painter, illustrator and designer from Scotland. I create work which is all about connecting people to nature and landscape and encouraging them to explore it through the lens of art themselves. You'll often find me drawing and researching for my paintings outside, and plein air is a really big part of my practice and it's what I love to document here on YouTube. This video is going to be all about demonstrating my approach to a couple of the prompts I have planned. But I thought before we get into all of that and how I'm going to approach it, I wanted to chat a little bit about what the challenge is and why I'm doing it. The reason why I wanted to do this is because we are close approaching the autumn equinox. I thought it could be a really nice way to use drawing as a tool to notice a little bit more, maybe tune in a little bit more into what's happening in nature as these seasons are starting to shift. So here in Scotland, in the UK, we're heading into autumn and the air is getting nice and crisp and the leaves are changing colour. And for me, I get this real sense of inspiration and kind of renewal that comes with this like new changing season. Is kind of heading into this like restoration phase. And I don't know, it gives me like lots of excitement and hope, and I just love autumn. I think it's my favourite season. So I was filled with excitement and thought this could be a nice challenge to do. The focus for this challenge is to learn to see more in nature, and we're going to be doing this by focusing on scale. So I have listed 7 prompts, and with each of these I'd love it if we could all zoom in really closely and see if we can see any extra colours or textures that we haven't noticed before. So the where, I am obviously in a really beautiful spot right now. I'm outside, I stay in the countryside, so I know it's very easy for me just to literally walk out my back door and find all this inspiration. But I have lived in cities for years and I do know that there is lots to be found there. You might just need to look a little bit closer. But yeah, I think we can use this challenge to try and celebrate finding nature in our daily lives and our daily routines. There's no need to have to go feel the pressure of having to do a crazy adventure or some mad activity to prove that we love the outdoors and that we love nature. It can be something quiet and understated and accessible. I think we can think about these drawings that we're going to be making more as gatherings. They're more like we're collecting all of these textures and colours and we're playing with scale and blowing them up so we can have all of these different kind of results and uncover hopefully some new juicy textures that we've not made or used before. And these drawings can act as a log to maybe inspire and bring into work in the future, or maybe just it stays as it is and it is a practice for when you do go on a walk and you use it to see more. We have 7 prompts to use throughout the month, and these are sky, path, grass, water, plants, daylight or maybe lack of daylight depending on where you are, and finally trees or potentially leaves if you want to focus on that instead. The first prompt I'm approaching is sky, number 1 on the list. I'm choosing to work in my sketchbook, which is quite a novelty for me because I often do my research sketches on loose leaf pages and then stick them back into the book. I'm choosing to focus this challenge on a specific combination of materials which I'm wanting to explore more in my work, and that is using oil pastels and watercolour together and using the oil pastels as a resist. So here I'm laying down the pastel first and then I'll pull the watercolour in on top. This is the section of the sky that I chose to study. Obviously you can only zoom so far if you're just using your eyes and no camera, but I decided to use these 2 to 3 sections of the sky and pull the textures into the one composition. I'd love to learn more about how to name clouds and how to recognise different types of clouds, but for the moment these are the little fluffy bits that you saw in the last video of my sky close-up. And if anyone knows what these types of clouds are called, let me know in the comments below, I'd love to know. I used to use this material combination of watercolour and oil pastels with inks thrown in there as well, back in uni when I was first learning and developing my identity as an artist. And I'd forgotten all about this combo, and it wasn't until I was going through old work this week I rediscovered some pieces that I still really love to this day. And so I wanted to bring it back into this challenge and these research sketches and explore how it is working with this combination again and see if it changes from all the things I've learned in the last couple of years. I love working outside, especially when it's about documenting light, because you have to work so fast because the light is moving and shifting really, really quickly. So you've only got a couple of minutes, which means that your marks become really dynamic and intuitive. And in a way, as always, harping on about this I know, but it's more about the looking and the seeing than it is about what your image looks like at the end. So I'm really not looking at my page very much as I'm making this, I'm mostly looking at the sky. And if you are when you're doing the sky, I do recommend not doing what I've done and choose the bit of the sky where the sun is beaming at you, because it's really hard to see. It's probably not very good for your eyes. So here I lost my patience with using a tiny brush. I'm used to using brushes that are the size of my hands almost. And yeah, so we gave the brush the heave-ho and just got stuck in with the hands with watercolours, which I hadn't done before, but I have to say, it worked pretty well. I have a really concise version of this challenge written on my blog over on Substack, which I'll link down below, and I've also listed out the prompts and all of the pointers on my Instagram too, so that you can save that post there if you'd like easy access for reference as you go throughout the month. Here we are at prompt 2, which is path. For this prompt, I wanted to push myself to zoom in super close. I think it's easier with this one because I can get physically much closer to the thing that I'm looking at. So I ended up basically just drawing a little patch of mud, and never in my life did I think that I would be filming myself drawing mud for the internet, but there you go, who knows what life throws at you. But I hope this one demonstrates just how much you can get for visual information when you look closely. And it's kind of fun looking at something unexpected. This is the little section that I was looking at. And I was drawn to this kind of V shape. I think an animal's hoof has gone into the mud, which has created this indentation. And so that's what I decided to focus on, that and the kind of grasses that were intertwined and embedded into the mud. Drawing-wise, I chose to use this unexpected little section to focus on considering space. So we're abstracting the shapes into really solid graphic blocks and then pulling in some line work on top, using a little bit of continuous line drawing with both the oil pastels and the watercolours to see what different textures I can make between the brush and the pastel and how those different textures can interact together. I'm not worrying too much about composition in this piece because again it's just about documenting what I can see as I am looking, and so the time is not really spent on thinking about consciously where things go. It's just oh, I've noticed that, let's pop that down. Oh no, I've noticed that bit, so let's pop that down where there's space, whilst thinking about how might watercolour sit on top versus underneath the pastel. This is the great thing about working with very simple, limited materials, because you can just play with really pushing the rules that you're working with when you've got a very simple palette and a very simple group of materials to work with. On to the third and final prompt for this video, which is grass. When I was selecting the prompts, I was trying my best to think of things which we have in our daily lives, but we maybe don't give the time of day to really notice them and spend any time over them. So I thought it'd be a nice little homage to the kind of beauty of the everyday. I've also done my best to try and think of prompts which we should mostly have in our local environments. So I hope that these things are all easy and accessible for you to find. For my study of grass, I've chosen 2 to 3 strands of grass and really tried to blow them up massive on my page. They were so small that it was actually really difficult to film. And at one point when I tried to grab my camera to document which bit of grass I was looking at, I actually lost a piece of grass and I had to jump over to a separate strand because I couldn't find it again, it was so small. What I noticed on the 2 strands of grass was that they had actually pretty much died back, and they had these really beautiful, I don't know, they kind of looked like burn marks. It wasn't that, but maybe it was just the kind of start of a decay. And they'd created these really geometric patterns on the strands, and so that's what I decided to fill the page edge to edge with all these different shapes. Again, I approached this with a continuous line drawing, which is my favourite thing to do. And I did this with oil pastel first to log all these different shapes and textures. After I'd finished with the oil pastel, I decided to pull the watercolour back on top to do a little bit of a colour study of all the different hues that were melding together in these different grasses. If you'd like to share your work with other people who are also doing this challenge, I've named a hashtag. It's called the Outdoor Sketchbook Collective, and you can use that over on Instagram to show other people the work that you've been creating in response to this challenge. I'm also going to be sharing my own work over on Instagram and writing about the process on my blog on Substack, which is also called the Outdoor Sketchbook Collective. And I'm going to be building out a couple of resources to support the challenge for my Patreon subscribers. And I'll link all of those things down below so you can check them out. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you outside.